Welcome to Creative Independence,
a podcast by Memberful. I'm Jen Matichuk.
And I'm Cy Wilmore. In this podcast, we speak to successful and passionate entrepreneurs who have won big in the creator economy.
Welcome to the final episode of Season 1 of Creative Independence, a podcast by Memberful.
In this podcast, we've been speaking to successful and passionate entrepreneurs who have won big in the creator economy. With each guest, we asked, how do you make your business resilient? Today, we're going to share each answer and chat about them.
We believe that owning your audience, brand, and content makes your business anti-fragile. Businesses are stronger and more resilient when they're diversified.
Blair and Taegan Goddard believe that businesses become resilient when you continue to do what you love in an honest and open way.
I knew going into it that it was going to require energy and time. And I think it's really easy to imagine what a successful membership would feel like. At least it was for me. But I had to really slow down, back up, and think about what are the steps for me getting there, and just go in with both eyes open. It's going to take time. Sometimes you're going to feel like it takes more time. I mean, when I get a question from a member, I answer as quickly as I can because I want them to know that I'm responsive, and I can't always do that. But it's just, I want to get to know them. So the survey was super helpful, just to know what kinds of things that they like. I'm like, are you a modern quilter? Are you a traditional quilter? And on the Memberful, when they, enroll in the membership, you can ask questions on the page. And I was like, what are you most excited about? And I said, exclusive content from Blair or the block of the month. And so I'm able to see, okay, they like exclusive content, and it's not necessarily exclusive Zoom calls and things like that. I think everybody's a little zoomed out. So they love that when they're ready to go in and download a PDF pattern or watch a video, I've got that there for them. So I think it's just, you have to be mindful of being responsive to them and know that it's going to take some time. I mean, this is all still very new for me. But I feel like I went into it fully aware that I was going to put some work into it.
The biggest piece of advice is to do something that you absolutely have passion for and that you love. I have watched so many websites, blogs, podcasts fizzle out because the creator just runs out of steam and says, somebody creates something because they think there's a market for it, not because they have passion for it, not because they absolutely love this thing, this area, this topic. And if you have a love for a topic, you won't ever stop because it's what drives you. It's why you get up in the morning. It's what you do. But if you're simply trying to target some market because you've done some market research and you're like, wow, I think a blog, I think creating a blog on some niche over here about, whatever, is, unless you're absolutely ready to wake up every day and to put your all into it, very few will last very long.
Yeah, I love this comment from Taegan. He says, if you're going to wake up every day and put your all into it, and I think that's kind of resilience in the purest sense, right? If there's going to be tough times, there's going to be difficult times, there's going to be kind of financial hardships, dare I say, especially the world we're living in at the moment. But if you can wake up, and he says, if you have a passion for something rather than thinking there's a market for it, that's going to keep you going through thick and thin.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Taegan had a really, really great answer to, talk about resilience and talk about, if you don't like what you're doing, your business probably isn't going to continue in face of hardship.
Poop out, I believe the word was.
Yeah, you're going to poop out. It's a good quote, keeping it PG over here. But then on the other hand, you have You have Blair, who's obviously just starting what she's doing, just starting her membership. And she's exploring how she can show up for her members with her passion, with her love of what she's doing, and knowing that she's an expert in her field. So while Taegan has, many years of experience running what he's doing, Blair is just starting. They share these really similar values that are showing that both of these businesses are likely to be resilient and go the long haul.
Totally what Blair says about, if a member comes to me and says, I need this or I want this, do you have access to this? She says, I've got that there for them. I want them to know that I'm responsive. I think that's brilliant because she absolutely loves the people that she's created this membership for. And ultimately, again, that's going to be the thing that keeps her going through thick and thin. Absolutely.
So next up on our journey through our guests is we're going to talk a little bit about Cherie and Talia Koren. Both of them kind of believe that consistency in the face of change helps keep a business resilient.
I think what has definitely helped us, I don't think this is something I've mentioned yet, but a philosophy also with publishing is that not just having things be immediately actionable when you read them, but also treating history as a teacher. With DAOs, for example, you mentioned democracy, which is like a centuries old political concept. As you mentioned, it's been tried over and over. It's been very, very messy a lot of the time. And there are a lot of lessons, especially around coordination, that there's challenges around coordination, decision making that people can learn. And we shouldn't dismiss that when talking about DAOs. So I think we try to apply the same thing to music. There have been multiple waves of tech innovation in music. Each one is very different, but there are more similarities that we might think in terms of how people react to new technology, how tech adoption works over time, for example. So I think just being grounded in history as a teacher and relying on more evergreen frameworks, I think, to drive analysis of new tech over time, has also been very helpful for us too.
Yeah, I mean, I would say I am conservative in my growth trajectory. I'm not trying to grow the fastest I possibly can. And, but at the same time, I think the biggest thing is being able to make decisions quickly and act fast, especially when shifts are happening. Just make it, if you spend too much time trying to make a decision, the universe will make one for you eventually. So it's and even if it's not, don't worry about it being the best or the right decision, because you will make it the right decision, or you'll learn. So I think acting fast, not trying to grow as fast as possible, but keeping it slow and steady, and then expecting it. Just I expected all these changes on Instagram, and I am in it now. This is really happening. Businesses are having a harder time reaching people on Instagram. I knew this was going to happen eventually.
So there's an interesting juxtaposition between Cherie's response and Talia's response, in that Cherie is saying, look at the past, look at what has been consistent throughout history across many different iterations of something, specifically in your field. And you should always know about that so that you can follow that path. Whereas Talia is saying, there's going to be changes, and you should be expecting those changes, and you should be rolling with those changes. However, both are commenting on staying consistent in what you're believing in. So resilience is born in the face of change, but being consistent in how you believe that you're dealing with that change can provide benefits for your business to stay the long haul.
Yeah, absolutely there. What Talia said is she's conservative in her growth trajectory, which is actually a really nice juxtaposition within itself, because she's obviously all about acting fast, about making quick decisions and kind of course correcting along the way. I think she said something like, if you don't make a decision, the universe will make it for you. And I really like that, because it's just that embrace change. It's always going to happen. Exactly right. And it looks like she's kind of growing slow on the long term, but acting fast in the short term to make quick course correction decisions as she goes. And it's a really, really smart way to run a membership business.
Yeah, I mean, that's really the only way you can run a membership business
100%.
with a lot of the world being dictated by, these big media conglomerates. You kind of have to roll
with the punches. Yeah. Great minds.
Yeah. And, maybe add some more metaphors in there. I don't know.
Okay, let's move on to Eric and Michael and Lauren. Definitely some consistencies with what Talia's just said there. What Eric and Michael and Lauren have been speaking about is some guests believe that monitoring trends is important, but we need to focus on a long-term commitment, and transparency is the key.
This is what I do. I'm hardwired for this. Very few people are as blessed as I am to be able to discover as a teenager what they're going to do for the rest of their lives. And I did radio in high school and I did Chinese in high school. And by the time I moved out to Asia to get my first job, I've been doing the same thing. Here I am in Asia with a microphone broadcasting, 40 years later. It's crazy. And so but for a topic like this, you have to be intense. You have to be type A. So I'm motivated by the story. I'm motivated by, I love every day to write and to tell these stories. I'm motivated by our subscribers who email me back and say how much they love or hate what we do. That gives an enormous amount of energy. When I was at CNN, I was, broadcasting globally. I was on the air at CNN and I was producing, and I would talk to millions of people and never got a single email. Do you know what I mean? Now I send out I send out a newsletter, and I can count within 2 or 3 hours. I'm going to get 2 or 3 people going, Eric, you're off base on this. Yesterday, by the way, I wrote something that was just blatantly incorrect. Totally just, I don't know where I got it from. Complete fabrication on my part. And I had this really famous professor email me up saying, Eric, here's the World Bank data. You're absolutely wrong. Today, the top story in my newsletter was the correction. And celebrating the fact that we have this amazing audience who came back with the data. And I don't apologize for it. I just said I misstated this fact. This acclaimed professor provided the counterfact, and we turned it into a story. So, and that humility in the coverage, I think, is very, very powerful. People don't expect you to be right 100% of the time, but they expect that when you're wrong, you're going to be able to tell people, I was wrong, here's the correct facts. And in many ways, that boosts your credibility even more.
If you look at the long-term trajectory, of any business, I think the number one thing that's on your mind is, cash flow. If you don't have cash flow, I can't invest, right? And part of this gets back to the membership choice. Membership provides cash flow. Membership provides, a sense of certainty about what's going to happen from month to month. Now, it's not a perfect approximation by any means, but membership solves that problem for me in terms of just looking at how you can stay on top of the game that you're in and on top of what it is you're providing. I think you've always got to be tuned in to the market that you're in, what's changing, because things change so fast. And you can be guaranteed that no matter what it is that you're doing or whatever it is that you're working on, there's either somebody out there that's wanting to come eat your lunch, so to speak, and there's also someone out there that's working on something that desires to be bigger and better than what you're doing. But I think if you stay tuned in and you plug in and you listen and you watch and then you listen a little bit more, the path to take in terms of the long-term strategy of what you're doing, it's easier to see. And I think you got to be careful not to chase every new trend that pops up, right? In fact, most trends, we don't realize most things are trends until after the trend has either stopped or it's over. So, for me, being a level of a constant source of information in the eyes of the members is kind of what just is my guiding light, so to speak. I think a lot of people are chasing a lot of noise in lots of different industries. And if you can be constant, I think that gets rewarded over time.
Memberful is can't be everything to everybody. It just, they're looking for something more that's like in-person memberships, or they have an e-commerce kind of, thing going on that's, more their jam, or they're totally 100% focused on downloads. It doesn't help anybody for us to squeeze the person, the round square peg in a round hole, because the customer will be unhappy and they'll be writing saying this stinks, you overpromise and under delivering, and they won't be motivated about their business. We'll be getting crabby messages because we'll deserve it because we pushed them into the wrong solution. So it doesn't help anybody. But when you actually help someone find the right solution, even if it's not Memberful, that feeling and that interaction sticks with them for longer. And maybe they talk to someone else about Memberful. Maybe they come back to Memberful later when it makes more sense for their business. It's just the only way to do business, in my opinion, and the only way I would do business. I wouldn't work for a company that functioned otherwise. It just doesn't feel right to force people into, or trick them, or sales, get the salesy to say, hey, yeah, Memberful's great for you and come on in, and then find out that it's not the right thing later.
Yeah, I love these answers. There's something about openness and a humility, I guess, is a word that I would use to sum up all of these three answers. You've got Eric talking about, saying something that was blatantly incorrect, and rather than kind of apologizing for it and kind of going into his shell and being all defensive, he celebrated the fact that he was told he was wrong. He celebrated the fact that his audience are kind of empowered to come back to him and say, no, this was rubbish. You got this wrong. This is the right data. Let's kind of fix it. And he celebrated it by the next day sending out a story to say, I was wrong. And credibility is a hugely important part of openness and building trust. And that's exactly what kind of Lauren's doing as well. Being humble. You can't be everything to everybody. I love that kind of sentence, because why would you unnecessarily sell something to somebody that in your heart doesn't fit? And then you're betraying any trust that person might get in you. And the same with Michael. These people, I think he said, these people might come and eat your lunch, but kind of the consistency and the openness is what's going to kind of keep your members as your members.
Yeah, absolutely. All of them really weave really nicely together. And
totally.
Lauren calling out our competitors page at Memberful definitely ties the two, because we're just saying, hey, this could be better for you.
Sure.
And maybe you'll come back, and maybe you won't, but we're not going to trick you. And that's the biggest thing, is if you're a business that's running on the basis of tricking people, I don't know if that's going to pan out. Maybe for a bit.
Maybe for about 3-6 months you'll be loaded, and then it'll just all come crumbling down when people go like, the thing you sold me is just nonsense. What are you talking about?
Yeah, that's what we're saying. Hey, transparency. That's going to get you far. That's going to, or at least set you up for some level of success.
And long-term success.
But anyways.
40 years later, Eric's been doing this. That doesn't come from tricking people and trying to make a quick buck.
Absolutely not. He's doing it for a long time, doing it for the long haul. Speaking of resilience, as we continue to talk about that, our next three guests, Ben Reynolds, Jack Marshall, Sue Bryce, and her business partner, Craig. They're all talking about how if you're helping your customer make money, you're also going to set yourself up for success, because you're providing a path for them to continue to grow. So you're creating resilience in your business by being a guiding light for your customer.
In general, for business, I think what makes a company resilient is, one, focusing on providing value for their members or customers that, you're providing more in value than you're charging. I think if you do that, you should exist, continuously. And then you want to keep your leverage, don't have too much debt, or hopefully no debt, because that can sink you even if you're profitable, or if you have cash coming in, but you have to pay out more in interest expenses and your business declines at all. That's a way a lot of people go bankrupt. So that's a key thing to, not expand too fast, not over leverage yourself, not over hire when times are good, things like that. You want to be stable yourself. And the third thing I'd add is also a focus on, and this is very difficult for a small business, but a focus on some sort of competitive advantage, something that you're doing that other people can't do. And for most small businesses, that's going to be a brand. for us, I talked about our share analysis research database. That's something that a guy with a good investing idea and no cash, he couldn't replicate that today because there's 800 plus securities. No one can do that by themselves. It's impossible. Whereas an investing newsletter, a really smart person could go out and start one and have some success. So a competitive advantage, something that other people your size or smaller, or hopefully even larger than you can't compete with, is really important for sustainable business success, I think.
Yeah, I think the main sort of buzzword is diversification. And this is something that we sort of talk to our sort of community and our readership a lot about, but something that we apply a lot to our own business as well, and really to every element of our business. So as you say, subscription and membership is sort of a great foundation on which to build a publishing business, I believe. But there's no reason to say no to exploring other revenue streams as well, and sort of diversifying your revenue mix so that, to your point, if advertising goes away, you can fall back on your subscription revenue. If, there is a widespread sort of a subscription cancellation event, maybe you do have other revenue streams that can help kind of prop you up and see you through to the other side of that. So that's on the revenue side. But again, I think, at least for us, as it applies to all of our business, we think about diversification. So whether that's, how we are reaching new readers, just through the channels that we kind of operate on, whether we're, generating traffic through search or social or, through podcasts and whatever else it might be, we're constantly thinking about, how do we make sure we're not putting all of our eggs in one basket? To sort of give us more opportunities and then more surface area to expose ourselves. But I think first and foremost to ensure that, to your point, our business remains sort of sustainable and future-proof to some degree.
What we are doing is helping our community make money and make a living. If we are successfully leading with that, we are not subject to being the first thing that they cut. If we are a part of them making money and we are teaching them how to make money and our business systems are working, then we are the last thing on their cutting list. If all we're doing is providing an illusion of success or an entertainment output or anything that is not practical in their life, this is the time they're going to cut it. But if we're actually part of their game of supporting their family, making money and growing, we're the last thing they're going to cut.
I tried to elevate every person that got successful in my network as they got successful, because it was not about me. It was about, bringing that all ships, rising tides, So that's where I think our loyalty to them and the content was authentic. We always kept our energy in a place of always replenishing and growing so that we didn't get too static, and always we cared. We have the best customer service because we have the best team of people because we really care about our people. So for me, that energy is, I love my business. I love being in business. I like the fact that people can feel it and that they talk about it like a good business. What an incredible honor. It's like, I don't know, I guess it must feel like what it feels like to have, watch your children achieve something. I don't have children, so I was like, but it's like, to me, I was proud, and I was proud of its just authenticity.
So all three of these guests had a really common theme running through them. I think Sue really covers it the best in her answer, talking about how, she's helping her students be successful. And if she can continue to be the best version of herself to help her students be the best versions of themselves in what they're doing, then she's setting herself up for a lot of success, because they're going to share about their successes and they're going to say, all right, well, this is where I did it. This is how I became successful. This is what I did. And then Sue's business is going to keep growing. So that's setting that up for that resilience on her side.
Totally. There's something in, I don't know, folks, if you will notice it in the video clip, but there's something when Sue mentions her students, there's this wonderful, genuine smile that comes across her face when she's speaking about sharing the success of her students, that for her, that is her own success, is when her students are successful, and that's a wonderful, wonderful way to run a membership business.
Absolutely. Sue loves her students.
Absolutely.
I mean, if you're running a membership business, you kind of got to love the folks that are buying in. And the other two folks that we clipped out here, Jack and Ben, they're also running businesses that are providing very specific value for people to help them be successful, to help them make money, to help them diversify what they're doing in, following what they're already experts in. So I think that, the diversification, the helping your customer, all wrapped into one, is going to help you stay resilient, be successful.
Definitely, exactly what Jack says there. He speaks very specifically about diversification as well as quite generally. And he says, if advertising goes away, then membership is a great other revenue stream. But I think it's not just speaking specifically about revenue. It's also about how you run your business, kind of high level, always thinking about if something falls apart, what else is there? What will be the plan B? What is the contingency? And of course, that's exactly what Ben is doing as well. He's always talking about the long term. He's always talking about how to, in this case, it was the COVID pandemic, how to have a plan B, how to think about the alternative arrangements. Let's move on to the next couple of guys that we spoke to, the next couple of folks that we spoke to. And we spoke to Armin Witt and Amanda McLaughlin, who are all about going above and beyond. That's their way of becoming resilient and sustainable. They both tried really, really hard, or they both continue to try really, really hard to make their content as great as possible to give their members everything they want.
The main thing is keeping those subscribers excited about spending their money with us, making sure that they feel that amount of money, which is a lot to some, is none to others, is well spent, that their time and energy that they devote to reading brand new is fulfilling to them in some way. So our plan is to, how can we improve this, not to raise the prices. I mean, we might raise the price at some point, but that's not the goal. The goal is to make those $20 expenditure a year a no-brainer. How can we make this just yes, I have to have a brand new subscription because I get this and this out of it. And, we did a lot of that early on when there was nothing else going on. We did a lot of improvements to the site. We added some features, stuff like that. Now with the events coming back, that sort of has been put on hold. But now that we have our footing again in the event world, all right, so now what are we going to, we're trying to figure out things to do for the next few years that will just keep that subscription base engaged, grow that subscription, because there's still room to grow. At some point, according to Google Analytics, we had, something like, I think it was something like 70,000 unique visitors per month. Can we get there? Can we get there on a subscription model? And I mean, not because we're greedy and we want to get that money, which will be great. I'm not going to lie about it, but can we make this blog just something that is a must-have for everybody in the industry? And again, it's not a thing of ego. At this point, I just enjoy it. I don't get any. Yes, I get certain satisfaction, and it gives me confidence to do things, but it's just more about how can we make this as good as possible for as many people as possible, and making it last for as long as possible.
I think that membership is the most resilient main revenue stream that we could invest in. We've also moved from, we have made podcasts for big clients and companies. Our first contract was with Sony Music. We made a show for Netflix in 2020 and 2021. And, both of those were useful ways to keep the lights on and keep my staff paid. And I'm proud of the work we did. But at the same time, the fewer people who are in a position to say no to me, or who I have to say, you're actually not treating my staff with respect, and that's not a thing that I can go to sleep knowing I let happen. that is better. So under some definitions of sustainability, the answer might be make all the money you can in all the ways you can so you have a cushion to fall back on, right? Or like accept as many contracts as you possibly can. And therefore, if some of them fall through, you're okay. Or say yes to everything and, don't turn things away based on if they share your values or not, because, again, like money and options are better. But I think that the more focused we are and the more we make sure that everything that our name is attached to and that we put out there is something that we are proud of, reflects our values, and is with the kind of person that we want to do more work with, the better we are and the better it is, because then people who get it, clients who get it, people with ideas that we would be excited to make, they self-select, they find us. And so, keeping the lights on and keeping my staff paid is my primary responsibility as a business owner. But at the same time, I am not going to let those short-term gains of saying yes to the unethical sponsor, saying yes to a client that already gives me bad and exploitative vibes from the jump, all those things, clicking on any solicitation email or trying any platform that comes my way is not how we operate. And I take really seriously, again, the trust of our audience. And so I'm only going to introduce a new idea, concept, program to them when I have a lot of confidence behind it.
So listening to Amanda talk a little bit about how, there's that farming analogy with the soil. Sure. And she's relating her soil to her community. It's so interesting because she's nurturing her community, and her community is her base of her membership, and her membership is the most sustainable. It's the most resilient part of her business. So, having community as the bottom piece of that holds everything up. It's such a beautiful and brilliant way to think about things and know that you're building for them and you're creating for them, and they're helping you with your business.
Definitely. There's a couple of things she says in terms of this business plan. This business plan won't last forever, but as long as I kind of take care of my community and my member and my staff, then, we'll be okay. And that's kind of resilience right there, right? As long as I've got a great team around me, and not just a team of staff, but a team of listeners, a team of community members, then we'll be okay. She also says, never let short-term gains kind of compromise that. Never let short-term gains interfere with your true values. Because if that stops, if your true values kind of are interfered with or are compromised, that's where you lose motivation, and that's where the resilience is gone, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and Armin talks about the same thing too. He's trying to make sure that the content, first of all, that he's putting out is excellent, and that his subscribers are finding value in it.
Totally.
And, Amanda thinking about her community is also making sure that her content is fulfilling her community's needs. So it's a really, really great comparison between the two very different businesses that have such a large focus on let's make our content great, let's make our subscribers really happy, and they're going to continue to work with us and spend money and be a part of this membership and part of this business.
Yeah, exactly. As you say, I think Armin says something like, we want to keep people excited to come back. And I love that. It's a really simple, but a really, really kind of great kind. We want to keep people excited. We want to make sure that they feel like their time and money is well spent on the stuff that we're sending to them, with the stuff that we're giving to them. And he wants to create a membership that it's a no-brainer to be a part of. And that really resonates with me personally, actually, because as some of you might know, I used to be the chairman of a membership society. And the one thing that I wanted to do was create a no-brainer membership where you just know, you don't even doubt why you're a member and you just want to be there all the time. He says he wants to make it a must-have. I think that's awesome.
Yeah. And thinking like that is going to shoot that retention rate right up. Not to get too deep into some data analytics, but your retention is going to be strong. And that's awesome. So our next two guests and their answers about being resilient, Drew Whitcomb and Dan Frommer. They both talked about constant expansion into new places and diving into new topics, and with that, building their audience and expanding their membership by building off of what was successful and pushing into new areas to, show their audience a new place, and then also to bring more audience in. So let's check them out.
Yeah. So what we've been doing is expanding into more shoe categories that we weren't before. For example, we expanded about 6 months ago into volleyball, brought someone on who is exclusive on volleyball, and that category has been doing amazing, right? It was a category on the web that was just, people were using a lot of basketball shoes anyway for volleyball, so there was a big synergy, but the category is just filled with all these automated sites that are just automated, just kind of like computer written reviews, just like affiliate link traps, trying to get people cookied so they can, get a percentage of someone's purchase. So we were able to quickly kind of jump to the top of the heap there. We've added golf recently. We're looking to get into pickleball, and not just the shoes. We're starting to dabble into all the apparel and gear around things. So, we've written a best running sunglasses article. We got someone who occasionally writes for Runner's World and Wall Street Journal and Women's Running. So she did that list. And, we're starting to bring in like subject matter experts when it's something we don't have expertise on, on in our own team, and just use a contractor or a freelancer to create that. And we're just like slowly monitoring what works and what doesn't with the audience, or what attracts new people in general. And I think, we're seeing good results across a lot of different things. We're seeing stuff that's not worth covering. We've got gift guides, that we launched. I think that was 3 years ago. So we're in like the third year of the gift guide, and now they're ranking much better. But we've got gift guides for fitness, athletes, basketball, and running. And it's like, oh, well, what other gift guides should we do? How should we cover Black Friday? Like, how do our audience, as we have more resources, like how do we cover the big deal days like Black Friday? What do we, like just giving them the deals maybe is not as helpful as pointing them in the direction of some of the best performing shoes and like what price they can get them at now and why it's such a good deal. So I think that, it's all that kind of, extra services to the readers, whether they be members or not. It's how do we keep giving them more of like, come to Wear Testers, learn something about shoes, about what you should be buying next, and then kind of expand that all in the, footwear, apparel, and sporting goods section, and find the things that are actually worth doing, where people do need like, someone as a guide to help them in that category. Sunglasses has proved to be a good one because, there's so many different price points, and they're all claiming that they block all the UV rays, and they're all claiming that they don't fog. And, so it's like, you go in and you're like, well, is it worth it to spend $150 on a pair of sunglasses? Or should I just spend $60? Or should I just spend $30? Because you have options all along, so that's a place where we can add value. And I think like us just finding all those other areas where we can add value in the various, kind of categories that touch, or go alongside footwear is the key for us.
Well, there's two elements to it. There's the audience building and attention gathering, and then there's the actual membership business part of it. And those are related, but slightly different. I think in terms of building an audience, what is your point of view? What is your unfair advantage? What is your knowledge or, aspired knowledge that is going to make you an authoritative voice in a topic that people care about and will value your contribution? That sounds complicated. It doesn't have to be. Everybody started from zero. Literally, everybody started from zero. So figure out what you're really interested in and read a lot. Start writing about it. You're not going to know that much at the beginning. You're going to learn more as you go on, and just keep going. the dissatisfying part of the dissatisfying truth of, why people are influential or successful is they've just been doing it for a long time and they haven't stopped. They haven't been discouraged or forced to stop for some reason or chosen to stop. So pick something and just keep going. The membership part of it is more complex because then the answer is, why are people going to pay you for the service you're providing them? And every situation is going to be different, and your goal is to figure out what is the correct exchange of value and the correct reason that people would want to pay you for your time, and whether it's writing or audio or spoken word or whatever it is, videos, anything, and build on that. And you will probably have to change your path a few times to make something work. I at one point started offering monthly memberships, and then I realized that I didn't like that idea because I want people to get to know me over the span of at least 3 or 4 months, ideally a year, to figure out if this is worth building into their professional life. And so I turned off monthly memberships, and I'm happy with that. Even if I'm perhaps missing out on a couple of people who only would join something on a monthly basis, I don't care. I'd rather have people who are around for a longer period of time. People will make similar or different decisions with their membership system. You might change your pricing. You might offer, bulk discounts. There's so many different opportunities to kind of tweak the membership business. But that's part of it. That's part of the fun, as we say, is figuring out where things are going. But anyway, figure out what you really care about and where you think you can lead a credible and unique conversation, and then figure out what the right value exchange is, and just get it started and keep going and don't stop. That's the answer.
Yeah, I think Dan kind of touches on audience building in a really, really interesting way. Everything we talk about with Memberful is community, right? It's not just I say something and it goes out to the world and I don't get any feedback or anything. It's the opposite of that in some ways. It's I say something, that sparks a conversation, my community comes back to me, my audience are no longer just an audience, they can actually give me feedback, they can help build my community with me. And that's exactly what he says. He wants people to feel that their contribution is being valued. He wants to offer an authoritative voice out to his community, out to his membership, but he wants to do it in such a way that people are happy to come back and they kind of build a community together. That's what keeps you motivated. Ultimately, that's what kind of keeps you resilient, right? He says, just keep going, don't be discouraged. And the people in your community are going to be the people that help you keep going, that help you stay motivated, that help you stay resilient.
Yeah. Dan gets pretty in-depth with a lot of his answers.
Totally.
And he dives in pretty deep. And you can see that reflected in his membership content as well. All of his pieces, all of his content dives in deep.
For sure.
And that's helping him build out his audience. It's helping provide a place for his audience to connect, and, then translates to having a strong membership because people can trust in what he's doing and eventually stay and stick around to hear and read more about what he's doing in the future. Drew also, he's a little bit more on the nose with how he's answering his questions. He's like, we're expanding into specific topics that we haven't covered yet. And with that expansion, we're bringing new readers. And these new readers, they could come here because they're wanting to find a volleyball shoe, which is their most recent expansion. However, these volleyball shoe explorers might also be a multi-hyphenate athlete. So they could also be looking for running shoes, and they're going to see that Wear Testers is also testing running shoes. So you bring them in with one topic and you keep them sticking around with all of the other things that you're also covering. And so with each new thing that they're expanding into, they're bringing in new folks that are spreading across everything that they've already done.
100%. I think it actually harks back nicely to kind of what we spoke about with, let's say, Talia earlier in the show. Like, set up something. You can be conservative with your growth, but set up a name for yourself. Create something that people know that you are the go-to guy or gal for this particular thing. In this case, running. Maybe it's fair to say, take baby steps. Hey, there's a running joke. There you go. Baby steps. Set yourself up as a name.
There you go.
Trusted brand, trusted name. And then you can expand into, in this case, sunglasses or pickleball, which isn't a word that I thought I would be saying on this podcast, but who knew? Really come to be a brand that people... I kind of don't really know what it is, I'll be honest, but I'm going to Google it as soon as this show is over. Become the trusted name in the industry. And then you can start to expand out and people will follow you down those avenues as well.
Amazing. We had some awesome guests this season. And
incredible people.
I'm pretty excited about all of these things that we covered, each of them talking about resilience in their own specific way. And some of them relating to each other. Obviously, we grouped them together. Some of them really not. But ultimately, all of these people are having one guiding light of membership is helping them build their creative business. And it's really cool to see. And I was really excited to talk to all of them.
Yeah, some amazing people that we got to speak to during season 1 of Creative Independence. Thank you again to all of our guests. We really appreciate talking to you. And thanks, of course, to you guys for listening. This was, of course, the first season of Creative Independence, which is a podcast by Memberful.
Thank you so much for tuning in. We're so happy that you did. We had a blast. If you haven't yet, check out all of the episodes that we did with each of these guests that you just heard today. They're going to go way more in depth than just talking about resilient businesses and talk about their businesses specifically. So it's a good time. As always, leave us a review, leave us a comment, say hi. Thank you for tuning in.
Thanks, guys. I'm Cy Wilmore.
And I'm Jen Matichuk.
And take care, and thanks for listening.